Alright, hey everyone, it's Spoony. Welcome to Kickassia. The first thing I'd like to do before I get started at all is to offer my deepest thanks to everyone involved with Channel Awesome, Doug, Rob, Bargo, Mike Michaud, and Mike Ellis, everyone involved for bringing us all down to Reno to have a really great time and film this really ambitious project. And if no matter what I say, if it seems like I'm being overly critical, or if it seems like I am complaining or something, I'm not. Believe me, I'm not. This was some of the most fun I've ever had. This is the biggest production I've ever been on, and I got to hang out with some great guys, make a really funny product, and I wouldn't trade this experience for the world. I loved every second of this. So it was a hard shoot. So that's basically what I'm getting at. Is this is actually a very arduous shoot, but. It's not to say I didn't have a great time, and so if it ever seemed like I was complaining or not, this is where I'm coming from. And I think if anyone has any issues with this video, and I have seen some complaints, which I don't normally take complaints that hard, but in this case I kind of did. I think you have to realize, especially with this video, is that we basically filmed a feature-length motion picture in 4 days, and I think that really says something about Doug and Rob's ability as writers, directors, and cinematographers. Because let's look at the logistics of what happened here. They basically they orchestrated and gathered together 16 plus people from all over the world, international flights, all sorts of that. Handling the over 16 people's schedules. And being able to act, direct, and shoot a 70-minute, this is around 70 minutes, comedy with basically all, I'd say about 60 to 70%, action sequences all at once. And we did this in 4 days. And so, these guys are trying to keep us fed, trying to keep us happy, trying to keep us safe, and trying to keep us giving good performances. And you have to remember that most of us are not trained actors. So even when you are dealing with actors, it's like herding cats. So, but besides that, we're doing this all on location, and we had very little control over the environment, the lighting, the sound, and so we had to do this quickly. So anyone who's ever been on any kind of film shoot, you can't just film 70 minutes of stuff this intricate and complicated and funny and keep it witty and keep it flowing and keep it fast and keep the performances natural. So everyone really had to come together and work as hard as possible, stay on topic as much as possible. And Doug, God bless the guy, through all this adversity, through all this hard work, the guy must have been just stressed out like crazy, keeping his enthusiasm up, keeping his wits about him, keeping that level of control. We were all playing hurt, we were all playing tired, we were so tired, and basically keeping everything together. And so I am amazed beyond belief at Doug's ability to keep it together, just mentally keep it together. He didn't snap at anybody, he didn't yell at anybody, never lost his temper with me, not with anybody else. And it's always really difficult when you're dealing with actors, that many actors in this much of a time crunch in this particular situation. So thank you, Doug, for dealing with my crap at least, and putting together what I think is a really funny movie. I mean, this is a movie. This is probably the first movie I've ever actually been in. So this was an amazing experience for me, and thank you again. I don't actually know the story about how Doug and Rob decided they wanted to shoot here. I think Mr. Ball was a fan of the show and volunteered to let us shoot on location there, but that's as far as I know. I could be entirely wrong. You'd probably have to ask them about that. I actually had very little dealings with the man. He was almost always on set, kind of watching. He was actually kind of funny where no matter what we were doing, he would always kind of stand very respectfully off to the distance, very stoic, arms folded behind his back, kind of just watching it as if everything was going according to plan. He had this very stoic demeanor about him, as befitting the head of state of a small nation. But yeah, he takes his stuff kind of seriously, and you got to say the name of the place right. And but he was never like hostile towards us. I mean, he liked having us there. I think. The family was always very nice. The kids liked having us around. I actually felt really bad that we were we basically took over this guy's place for like 2-3 days, you know, and so they couldn't run around, they couldn't make any noise. They basically had to stay exiled to one room at a time as we were screaming at the top of our lungs all day for like 3 days. So we stayed at a hotel in Reno, which is Molossi is about an hour outside of Reno. And I was actually really impressed. I'd never seen... I'm such an Arizona noob, but as soon as you get off the plane in Reno, there are slot machines in the terminal. You can literally gamble the second you get off the plane, and I was really amazed by that. And I've never been to Vegas. I would love to go to Vegas just because I hear that as Reno is pretty cool. And it's kind of a shock to the system when you see the ability to gamble wherever you want, which is funny because you can gamble in Arizona, but we don't have any kind of slot machines hanging out. Like if you want to go gamble, you go to the casinos. And I've actually never been to an Indian casino down here. They're probably not as impressive as the stuff in Reno, but I've heard Vegas is like Reno is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of Vegas, but especially since there's not really any shows in Vegas. There are shows kind of, but not anywhere near the level of what you see in Vegas. These shots were filmed completely separate from the rest of the production, especially the stuff at home. You'll see me in a shot here where I'm checking my watch. You will never see me wear a watch before or since this one, which I don't know if you consider that continuity gaffe. I consider it just a part of a joke. It's a good joke, but I'm actually not the kind of guy who can wear a watch.
Hey, yeah,
it's kind of silly, but I fuss with watches. Same reason I can't really wear rings. Like I used to wear my class ring from high school a lot, and I just kind of fiddle with it. You know, I kind of twist it around on my arm, on a watch I twist around my arm, or a ring I twist around my finger, and I actually kind of like. I kind of rub the area raw, so I don't like to wear watches. I wear actually a fob watch that hangs off my belt loop. Joe is awesome. I actually think Joe is the one who really steals the show. He's got just endless enthusiasm, and with the fact I couldn't believe he brought weapons through security, because I actually called the airline ahead of time because I had these airsoft guns. I have like a Desert Eagle 2 9mm airsoft guns that look really real. So I called them and I was like, I've got these airsoft guns. They are completely harmless and fake, and in fact they're broken. I don't think they shoot. That's when I bought them. I bought them at a discount because they're broken, and they're like, if it looks real, if at any time it fired a projectile, you can't bring this thing on. You have to actually have it in a lockbox, and you know, in a sealed hard case, and check it separately. I was like, no way I could do that. I couldn't afford that. And Joe actually did that. He had these MP5s, and I think he had several other guns. And he brought those. He bought a hard case for him, and he brought those with him. And I just like the TSA must have thought this guy was a maniac, you know, like just checking all these submachine guns. But yeah, Reno. It's kind of funny how if there's any kind of flat area, if there's any space at all for a video poker machine, they will put a video poker machine there, like at bars. We would actually go outside of the casino to a bar, like an Irish pub, that would serve food. It was actually really good food. And if you ever sat at the bar, like the bar was basically just a clear, transparent piece of glass, and underneath it was video poker machines, and so you could not escape the gambling. If you had a problem, you did not want to go to Reno. And like I said again, apparently if Reno is like that, Vegas is probably like, you could probably go to the bathroom and take a piss, right? And you're standing there taking a piss, and like right in front of you there'd probably be a video poker machine in case you just had to have that itch scratched. Most of the stuff you'll see coming up in the hotel was actually shot on the very last days, and it was kind of funny. I think I really complained at the time, and at the same time I don't know if I had a better answer for this. It's kind of complicated to explain, but he really wanted to get the Molossi shooting done right away, as in like we had so much to shoot down there, and it was such an arduous thing. He didn't know how long it would really take. I think he had 2 days booked out to do this thing. And we had no idea how long it would really take. And he was explaining to us that the weather in Molossi is very volatile, where it could just suddenly rain. You know, no matter what happens, it could look clear 1 hour, and the next hour the storm front would blow in. So we couldn't shoot in the rain. We had to shoot when the weather was consistent, the lighting was relatively consistent. And
I know what you're talking about.
he just wanted to get it done really quickly. And the problem was it was such a physical shoot. We spent like 2 straight days running all day. And at least I was so exhausted by the time. Like, it's hard to explain, and I'll explain more about the conditions of the shooting. Oh my god! And I'll explain the direction I was given here. I don't think you will ever see a man shoot more scenery than I do in this one. I was almost literally chewing the curtains. But we are dealing with not the most athletic types, and I'm not speaking for anyone else. I'm just saying I myself am probably the least athletic dude around. And so, you know, that was probably the most physical workout I'd gotten in years, was running across this landscape for 2 days. And so, you know, we basically wrapped, I think, around 7 or 8. And we'd come back, and we basically had to go right back to bed, because I think our call was around 6:37, something like that. And so,
barely an acre of land.
It was.
Do you think anyone else
After the first day, you do not want to know what I saw in the mirror when I got out of bed, because I almost couldn't make it back to my room after the first day because my legs and ankles were so shot. It was remarkable how everyone kept it together as long as they did, because I probably was not the worst off. I remember Jason had the Until We Went Lord Cat. I remember he had some real problems. After the first day, he twisted his ankle really badly. He may have twisted both his ankles really badly, and he was not moving too well after the first day. He was not pleased. He was in a lot of pain, I think. And I think today, I should actually ask him if he's feeling any better right now. But I think I remember him telling me at one point that he'd torn a bunch of ligaments or tendons in his ankles, and it was really bad. I actually thought he might need surgery just from hearing the extent of his injuries. Look on Benzai's face here is really priceless. I almost want to make that my avatar, is when he accuses Linkar of being a Nazi, and Benzai's like, "You motherfucker," and he's just looking at that guy. Okay, as for shooting in Molossia, like I said, very, very strenuous shoot, and I probably would have saved it for last if at all possible. And I think that was my main complaint, was, you know, why couldn't we shoot this Molossia stuff last? We were so beat after the first time. But like I said, the weather was so likely to change that we couldn't put it off. You know, we couldn't put this off to the last day. What if it rained on the second half of the day, the first day, and we were set back like, you know, 8 hours? You know, what are we gonna do? We can't stay here another day. We can't afford to keep everyone around here. So we had to get it done right now. And when we went down there, I think we all kind of got I won't say a bad feeling, but Rob Walker came back and he explained to us. He's like, "Look, guys, this is going to be really tough because the weather is really unusual there. It's really, really dry. It's desert-like, but at the same time, it's actually very cold. And there's a stiff wind that just kind of swirls around the place all the time." He's like, "I'm warning you guys, you need to dress warm, you need to be ready, you need to carry a lot of water with you. Like, no matter how much water we bring, you should probably bring more, because it's a desert out there." And he was absolutely right. And some people may not have heeded his words as well as we probably should have. Even myself, I probably should have listened a lot closer to him. I was not actually cold. 8-Bit Mickey was probably the worst off by far. It was really cold down there, and I was wearing a jacket, so I was okay. But 8-Bit Mickey was out there dressed like a fucking Spartan in his boxer shorts, and basically nothing else. And he was just about to drop dead at some point. I actually between every shot, I would actually take off my coat and give it to Mickey, which was barely enough. I mean, it was basically like me draping like a towel around his shoulders, because he was still not wearing any pants through the entire thing. I think Handsome Tom would give him his cape. He had like a Spartan cape or something like that, but it was about all he could do just to not die. The wind itself was actually probably the worst part of it. There was such a stiff wind all the time that before you knew it, I would reach up after like 2 hours and feel my lips. I was like, man, my lips are dry. My lips were like cracked mud. You know, it was so dry. My lips were a wasteland the entire rest of the trip. I don't know why. It was just. it was like the entire area sucked the moisture right out of you. Before you would just all of a sudden like take stock of your state of being and be like, man, I'm tired. I'm dehydrated or something. I got this headache and man, my lips are all. My God, my lips are split. You know, and and by the end of the first day, I was sunburned like crazy. And being from Arizona, I of all people should know the risks of sunburns. And it's not like Arizonans are at all super resistant to sunburn, like we deal with this extreme heat. We just have the good sense to stay out of the sun where it's air conditioned. So it's not like we're Fremen or something. We don't summon sandworms to take us from one place to another quickly, you know. We just like, it's fucking hot, let's go inside. Wherever we go, we carry a lot of water if we're ever going to stay outside that long. Kind of lost my train of thought. It was deceptively harsh because you don't expect to get sunburned when it's really, really cold, and we did. I particularly, I can't speak for anyone else again, but I remember myself. I was pretty scorched. Angry Joe was beet red, and actually, Nostalgia Critic, was very badly sunburned, pretty much all over his face, to the point where I wondered if it was going to be distracting when we shot it on video. And actually, I think maybe it was maybe a blessing the lighting wasn't so good indoors that we couldn't make out the sunburns on his face. He actually had it really bad on his neck as well.
I declare this sucking.
So after the first day of shooting, my legs hurt. I could barely walk. It sounds kind of silly, but you know, if you are a slob creature like me, and I love Film Brain. He is such a little weaselly toad in this show. He's a great guy in real life, but in this movie, he is such a little he's such a conniving little kiss ass that but at the same time he's not evil, like he's not hateable. He's so earnest and childlike, you know. I don't know, he's kind of this. He's this kiss ass, but he doesn't mean to be. He just loves the critic so much. He loves everything that the critic stands for, and he's just willing to do anything for this guy. And his childlike innocence is rewarded with like fascism and just brutality. So he just uses Film Brain and crumples him up like a Dixie cup. But anyway, after the first day, I could barely walk. I was sunburned to hell. And when I first looked in the mirror after the first day, my eyes were like 20% the size they normally were. Like I woke up at 6:30 in the morning, I think, and I could I looked like such hell, just hell on toast. It was not a good time. The mornings were the worst. Like once you finally got out there. Oh, by the way, you can see a reflection of Rob in the gold pattern there. I thought I'd point that out. I actually did shoot a sequence of me tooling up in my jacket, but we kind of changed my character. We kind of realized my character was supposed to be kind of this reluctant to fight guy with a lot of emotional trauma. So we actually didn't shoot me like getting all badass for this sequence. I was supposed to be kind of unprepared, or at least having second thoughts about the whole thing. Now you're about to see us do a whole lot of running around and yelling, and if ever I was going to complain about the production, and this is not a complaint against Doug, because I don't think he could have possibly known the conditions until we'd gotten out there. Molossia is a really striking place in the terms of, you know, it has its own natural beauty, but it's also a very harsh landscape. It's rugged, man, and I actually it's even more rugged than the place I grew up in, which is actually kind of it's mainly like a really rocky desert. So he's actually done a lot to kind of beautify the place, but at the same time, it's it's actually dangerous. If you're running around out there, it's going to be dangerous. It's a desert. It's got wildlife. It's got some really rugged. It's got rugged plant life. The landscape is uneven and rocky, and so if you focus on the landscape, you might be able to see what I mean. It's not the kind of landscape you want to go running around in. Actually, I'll come back to that. Here's one of my cheesy performances. The first time I did this, I kind of played it really not nearly as hammy. I played it like nervous,
would just be this one, Spoony. Just this
But
one.
I was kind of playing it more dark, where, oh geez, it's hard to explain. I kind of played it maybe more like Bruce Banner, where I was kind of fearful of Dr. Insano, but at the same time I kind of played it where I was haunted by it instead of like panic stricken and like raging fearful that of the slightest suggestion of it. So I think Doug's actually advice. I gave him like 2 takes, and Doug was like, no. I need like rape victim. Like you are absolutely panic stricken against the prospect of summoning Dr. Insano. And I mean, like, you need to feel like completely savaged by this guy. Like,
You'll find none of it left here.
You don't. That's like the last thing in the world you want to do. And it was good advice because I probably gave him like 4 takes, and he always used the most manic, screaming take of all of them, which was probably the right choice. But we had to do this take several times because Rob behind the camera was actually cracking it right there where I look in the camera. For some reason, that just set him off, and he would actually start shaking the camera. I'll probably get back to that because there's a lot more scenes of me screaming about try. There is no try. Molossia, the landscape really rocky, really barren. It was kind of funny where you actually. Oh, I don't know if you can tell. That was probably the best shot, and if you missed it, I'm actually far too backlit from the horizon to ever see again, but we did this dramatic pose where we're standing in a line, and I had this... I won this toy lightsaber in the arcade of the casino playing Deal or No Deal. I won like 2,000 tickets at Deal or No Deal, and I used it to buy a prop lightsaber as my weapon. And actually, most of the people here are using weapons that I brought. I brought like 2 Nintendo Zappers. I brought a squirt gun that Film Brain uses. I brought the Sega Menacer, which Benzai uses. Whoever's holding a Zapper is using my Zapper.
Heads up, guys.
But I was swinging this lightsaber. And it was actually kind of cool. It looks really good indoors. It's really cheap. Like I would actually sell it as a prop, but I actually don't think it would survive the mailing trip. It's really, really fragile, especially after hard use in this fight.
This is the moment you've been waiting for.
But anyway, during this dramatic pose in the line, I'm actually trying to pose. And now that I say it, I'm not posing in that particular... I'm not even holding a lightsaber in that shot. When we're doing the line pose, I'm actually trying to hold the lightsaber like the apprentice from The Force Unleashed. And I don't think you ever see that again. I kept thinking people were going to see me and be really impressed that I was doing the apprentice pose. But, I don't know. I thought it was going to be funny, and you just don't see it. So when we charge, for probably I'm mentioning the 8th time, the ground is really, really uneven. There's a lot of huge rocks, a lot of really strange dips in elevation, and it's not the kind of place you want to be running blindly across the landscape. You know, you want to be very careful about where you put your feet because you could slip and fall at a moment's notice, and then hit your head on a really sharp rock. So. When you're actually trying to give a performance where you're running and screaming and waving a gun in the air, you're not looking where you're going, and it was a really good opportunity to get hurt because nobody's looking at the ground. We're all trying to focus on what we're doing, and so you'll see us all kind of dodging around bushes and bushes and rocks and stuff like that. And it's a miracle more of us weren't hurt badly than we were, and actually many of us were hurt. Like I said, Jason, I think basically tore ligaments in both his ankles. Rob Walker, while doing one of the tracking shots, he was walking backwards, or more jogging backwards during some of these shots. And Rob tripped and fell and gashed his leg open on a rock, and really badly. He was bleeding, and it was actually starting to look really ugly because it started to bruise, and I don't think it got really badly infected, but it was looking nasty for a while, and he was hurting the whole time. So he might have bruised himself pretty badly. That was probably the most severe injury, at least the most severe immediate injury on that day's shooting. The Sentai masks were something that Linkara and Mars Girl came up with on the day. Mars Girl flew in from Japan, and she had bought Sentai masks, the kind of the Ranger villain masks, in Japan at like a 100 yen store, and so they brought those and decided to use those on the day as kind of their war face, and so they had these little Sentai poses practiced out. And I actually can't remember whose idea it was to use the Disneyland stuff about the cotton candy and the trees from Strike Commando. I'd like to take credit for it, but it was probably Linkar's idea on the day. Lee from Still Gaming twisted his ankle really badly, actually, but he didn't do that here. He did it in the car. we met up at the hotel, I think, going to the shoot, and he was getting into the van, and he twisted his ankle as it got kind of wedged under one of the seats because it was really tight getting into the van. Doug almost killed himself during the pose for the photo where he gets up on the big rock because he was wearing this big cape, and he was wearing these boots, and he had this really heavy costume on. He was trying to pose in dramatic fashion, so getting down from the rock nearly killed him. That was gonna be an interesting shoot if we'd lost Doug. I almost got really badly hurt on the bushes. Actually, it seems silly, and they probably don't look like it, but the bushes here to basically, that's one of the pimp shots of the thing. I actually really like that shot. And it was only suggested basically on the day when we realized he had a bat, and he was like, okay, during this shot he's going to be shooting cannons at us, and I think Juwaria was like, what if I hit the ball back with the bat? And so we had this really cool pose. We hit with we shot it, it was something to do. Probably one of the best lines of the show. It's no use, the bullets go right through the holes. I love that. Anyway, the bushes. It's kind of silly to comment on, but the bushes here, because the wind is so harsh, it's likely to destroy like any other lesser plant. If you were to, the wind is just a really destructive, erosive force here. So the shrubberies around here are these really, really hardy. They're like, their consistency is almost like of steel cable, and it's like wire, and they have these thorns, like almost literally like 1.5 inch long thorns. And so in the scene where I'm Dr. Insano and I'm kind of sneaking around the side of the house, my entire leg got entangled up in one of these thorn bushes. And I had to spend 2 minutes kind of disentangling myself from these thorns because they could have really hurt me badly. It sounds really, really silly that I almost got beat up by a bush, but these bushes were badass. If you had stumbled into one of those bushes, you would be in a world of hurt. You'd be cut up. So it was a really tough shoot, and it was lucky we weren't hurt worse. I hate to impugn Molossia. I'm not, because it was actually really. If you had never seen that type of landscape before, it was actually really beautiful. The side of the mountains, just getting there, and the garden, the kind of the train yard he had back here, beautiful stuff. It's just. It's not the safest place to be running around playing grab ass in, shooting your war movie. It's just not. It's not safe. You'd never get if you were a location scout for this place and you saw this rocky desert out there, and you're like, we're gonna be running around and swinging lightsabers and shooting guns and stuff. You'd never get that insured. I would be like, hell no, we're not shooting in that place.
Like me when I'm angry.
I like I said, I don't know what our alternative would have been. I might have tried to green screen it or something, but it wouldn't look nearly as natural. So Molossia it's a tough land, and its people are tougher. So that's why you don't want to mess with Molossia. They've mastered their terrain. It was actually miraculous we conquered them. It was the. Mr. Box did a pretty good job of acting here. He actually didn't have that many lines, and it was actually kind of funny how he didn't really coach Mr. Baugh that much on his acting of Fritz von Baugh or anything like that, because mostly he didn't say anything. He didn't say that much, not many lines. And he's like, when he first heard Fritz von Baugh's line, he's like, "Are you gonna throw an accent on or something? Do you have a German accent?" He's like, "No." And Doug's like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "You don't want to change it at all?" He's like, "No, that's the point. He's the same guy. He's clearly the same guy." And Doug's like, "Oh, okay, yeah." We never got any noise complaints from the neighbors, which I thought was actually very unusual. Especially, we spent 2 days running around in the roadway outside in the backyard, running and screaming all the fucking time we're doing this thing. And I just, not once did the neighbors ever kind of gather around and look at these idiots in costume running around swinging fake lightsabers and guns and stuff like that. I would have thought we might have gotten reported, but I don't know.
Flew right out the door.
So
If you look at the
one.
Cinema Snob is another guy I think who really steals the show. He's a great actor. I was really impressed with it. He actually got quite a bit of focus in this in this show, surprisingly so, almost. And he takes the ball and he rolls with it. You know, he's got this whole plot about him getting exiled, and I think it's really well handled. Especially, he gave several different, really nuanced performances. He'd give it one way, and Doug would be like, "Try it this way," and he, like a natural man, he did it. I was impressed anyway. He's actually made a lot of short films, I believe. I haven't seen all of them. I've seen a couple. But he's got quite a bit of experience, shooting on set, so that's almost entirely where it came from. You can see the lightsaber back there. It looks really good indoors. I was impressed. I was like, I gotta use this for... I actually have a lightsaber replica prop, but in terms of in terms of shooting indoors, it is actually not a bad substitute for just computer special effects. I mean, if you're shooting on the cheap, I might actually just try to find a way to build those myself and sell those as film. But look at that, it's awesome. But I liked hanging out with Brad. It was really fun having a guy on set who actually has far more experience with really obscure, shitty movies than I do. That's actually what kind of... I think I was searching for something on Strike Commando, and I was looking for Bruno Mattei stuff, and that's where I found links to his reviews. And so it was just really cool. He had all these videos to suggest, and we'd talk Bruno Mattei stuff. Really great. We didn't have a green room as much as the green room was just the room opposite whatever room we were shooting at the time. So if we were shooting in the kitchen, everyone else was in the living room. It was actually kind of funny watching these various nerds of different disciplines kind of congregate and spend time. So it was kind of funny. Both of the couches in the living room were commandeered between shots, and everyone would kind of whip out their Nintendo DS, and they would start playing Pokemon Heart Gold, and they would all be trading Pokemon on their Pokewalkers and having fights on there and exchanging little tips and tricks and stuff like that. And I actually did not have Pokemon at the time. I was playing other stuff. I was actually still in the middle of Persona 4, but I mean not handheld. I didn't bring a handheld. But yeah, it was kind of funny. As soon as a shot would break up, all the DSs would come out and they'd start playing. They were such geeks. Handsome Tom and Nikki were probably far more intelligent and efficient about what to do between shots than I should have been. I was actually really impressed when they started whipping out their computers and working on videos and cutting together promos for the videos and for the hero and villain shirts, which you can see them wearing in their videos. And they were actually very kind to give me one of each shirt, which I thought was amazing. I mean, just giving that stuff away. I mean, I agreed to wear them in some of my videos, and I think I do in the Highlander 2 video. You can see me wearing the hero shirt, but I've got both, and they're actually really cool. I like them a lot. And I really should have been working on videos. I had stuff to edit. I just didn't bring it with me. I brought my laptop mainly for internet use. I guess I didn't think that far ahead. It was actually, we weren't supposed to talk about the whole crossover thing, not to blow the whole surprise. And so we had all I think that's why I kind of fell silent for a month. I had actually done a bunch of videos in preparation ahead of time to cover my absence for the trip. I think it was Privateer 2 and I think Wing Commander I had done ahead of time and kind of queued those up and had those on kind of a staggered release schedule. But still, when I was done with Kickassia, I had 4 or 5 crossover videos with a lot of footage I still had to shoot and edit, Linkara's video, I had to shoot a ton of video. For Pumpkinhead, I had to shoot a ton of video, the gate cleaner. I'm forgetting all these videos I was in. I had to do a lot of voiceovers, I had to do a lot of editing, and I actually thought I'd have to end up editing Blood Wings, and I didn't. Jason was actually really good to edit that for me. But yeah, I had all this work to do, and I was so far behind when I got back. It was kind of silly, but I had 2 weeks of work to catch up on from Kickassia alone. I had all these crossovers. As much as I like doing the crossovers, I do wish I could find some other place to shoot them other than the hotel. The hotel is... They're not great places to shoot videos because the lighting in them is generally so poor. And besides that, you really don't want to be screaming and yelling at the top of your lungs like I normally do in my typical manic fashion, because you'll wake people up. And especially since I think we were warned that a lot of the old people that tend to gamble were on the floor that we were on, so we couldn't go yelling and screaming because we'd wake the old people up who go to bed at like 6 p.m. I did a lot of crossovers, though. Actually, I didn't bring a single thing of my own to do crossovers in because maybe I'm too nice a guy. But basically, every time somebody asks, "Hey, you want to be in my movie?" and I'm like, "Yeah, all right, no problem, man." So basically, I realized by the time I was starting to get my shit together for Kickassia, I was like, all right, what am I going to do for my crossover? And I kind of took inventory, and I'm like, I'm in like 5 crossovers. What the hell? And that was even before I agreed to appear in like vlogs, interviews, do promo spots and stuff like that. Pardon me. So before I knew it, I was like, I was actively turning people down. I was like, I was maybe too popular. If I do say so myself. But I was like, I think Lee wanted me to be in something, and I was like, I can't agree to anything because I'm in so many other crossovers already. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make those crossovers. So like, if you see me around and I'm upright, and you think I've got a minute, like call me over, I'll do it. And maybe even that was pushing it because I think if I ever got really frustrated at anybody, and this is not his fault, it was at Linkara actually. After the first day, we were shooting his crossover, which you haven't seen yet. But after the first day, I was just about dead. I could barely walk, and I was tired. I was sunburned. I was unhappy, and I really just wanted to lay down. And there I am as the Minister of Science. Yeah, the Stomp Rocket, great shot. I loved how it came down in shot. That was probably 1 in a million that the rocket actually came down in shot.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you want the goggles.
Anyway,
I was before, but
I'm sorry. I'm just hypnotized by this magnificent actor. Anyway, when we were done with shooting, Linkara, happy as can be. This guy has boundless energy, I tell you. I'm getting into the car, and he's like, "So we're gonna do the crossover thing when we get back. You gotta dress as Dr. Insana, right?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "No, we got a lot to shoot. We got all this stuff. You're in about half of this review. Let's do this thing." And I'm like, "Yep. Were you not there for when we fucking invaded Molossia for like 8 hours? And he's like, "Well, why don't you take a nap in the car, and when you get out, you'll be fine." And I'm like, "Die, Linkara, die." And so, like, I did indeed pass out in the car, but I got out, and I was like, I was trying to be civil, and I was like, "I'm in no condition to shoot your crossover. I will do it later. Please." It was like, we've got like 3 days to do this thing. Let me die tonight at least, and I will do this thing. And he really wanted to get his stuff shot. And with good reason. He had a lot of stuff to shoot. If he couldn't get it shot during the crossover, he wasn't going to get it shot. So he wanted to get it done. I got that. I really did understand. But after the first day, I was just like, this. I had probably been more tired than I ever was in my life. I was like Murtaugh in Lethal Weapon. I was like, I am seriously too old for this shit. And so I might have been rude. I hope I wasn't. And again, it wasn't Linkara's fault. I had agreed to be in this thing, and I kind of flaked out on him. And but that day was the wrong day to mess with me. I was like, I'm going to go to sleep now for 8 hours. Actually, it was probably about 5 or 6 because we had to get up at 6, and so it was really late when we got back. I didn't even eat that night, and I was really hungry, but I was just so tired I couldn't even eat. I got back, and I just passed out. I'm out of shape. What can I say? So Linkara was probably a little upset with me, and I was like, I did not want this guy like telling me like, dress as Dr. Insano, do it. And and even when I did it, I kind of wished he he had organized it to where all the stuff that where I was dressed as Dr. Insano that we did all at once. So like we basically shot it in chronological order. So we kept changing costumes like every shot. And so sometimes I was dressed as Dr. Insano, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm in Linkara's coat, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm Linkara Insano in his coat and his hat, but the crazy goggles. And so like I must have done like 45 costume changes, dressing completely in and out of that costume the entire time. And I was like, you could have made this more efficient, Lewis. And he's like, I know. Oh, but we're good friends. It was just like on the day, you know, like just on that day I was really tired. And so we're good friends. We talk online all the time, and so I don't want to. If you're listening, Lewis, I don't hate you. I'm just like, it was just that day I was probably not in the best of moods for anybody. Like if somebody had been like,
Then we plan on taking over.
it was not your fault. So it was entirely my fault. So if I was surly that day, that's why I was in a great deal of pain. My feet were hurting, and yeah, I probably had a migraine. The second day I had a migraine, and so I was pretty doped up on Excedrin that day. And actually, I feel really bad that I was so surly to Lewis, because that's just part of the job, you know. Like when you do this hosting thing, when you're doing the comedy thing, yeah, you may not be in the mood to be in front of the camera all the time, but when the time comes and you got to do this thing, you got to get in front of the camera and you got to be happy, you got to smile, or you got to perform. You got to do it. I mean, you've got to muster up that energy. You got to nut up and do this thing. But for me, that was probably the worst case scenario. Was on that day. I couldn't do it. Moving on, here's the big of course scene.
Do you someday plan on being bigger than God?
Of that you could say, yes. Little known fact, actually, I'm in a D&D game with a lot of the people on the, like Chris. He's in my group. I'm with Paw, Angry Joe, Skitch, Sean Faust, the epic fail guy. I'm probably forgetting somebody, but yeah, it's kind of cool. It's actually been a long time since I played D&D. We play on Skype. Actually, I think they've started streaming it. We actually had like 200 listeners in the D&D game, which is kind of intimidating when you're DMing. Like all of a sudden you've got this huge audience. You know, it's kind of one thing where you're sitting around a table or you're on a Skype call with like 5 other people. All of a sudden now like 212 people on this Ustream are listening to your bullshit story about dragons and pixies and shit.
Go away.
I was actually really flattered that Doug had written me into such a prominent feature in the script, especially as the Dr. Insano, especially like having a whole day dedicated to the fight scene, having a whole act devoted to Dr. Insano, you know, getting his fight on. At the same time, it was
that's stupid.
Basically every crossover I was in, except maybe the Pumpkinhead thing, was like, oh, we want Dr. Insano to appear in this one thing. So like I had Hotel Awesome, which was I actually volunteered for that one, doing the Dr. Insano thing, because I wanted to get revenge on Joe with the bag of poopy. But yeah, everyone wanted Dr. Insano, and if there was a reason I was like, I think the Doctor's going on hiatus after this one, is because I've done so much of the I had done so much of the voice and so much of the cackling and stuff like that, and Dr. Insano is one of those characters I very much feared oversaturation. He's the kind of character who is best in very small doses, and I think I got stories about Phaelus. I'll tell you in a minute. But there's Film Brain. He was actually kind of he was probably the most surprising guy on the set. Actually, he had such like this childlike enthusiasm. So he was a great actor. I was really impressed with how he took this character who was basically a puppy, you know. And he's always like head shaking, like he always wants his approval, and he's always like he's willing to do anything for his master here, and it was brilliant.
We do not do film reviews.
We do not do film reviews. But yeah, Dr. Best in small doses, and I think this one fight scene was actually kind of his glory moments. You know, the one time you ever got to see this guy actually throw down in any real fashion. But he can easily overstay his welcome, and I think whenever I have him in a video in a prominent feature, I always get a few complaints, and I think they're valid complaints that, you know, you cannot throw that voice at people for that long. It's going to grate, and it grates on me. But I think for purposes of this, he's actually a very integral part of the plot, where he's kind of like this the super weapon, the nuclear option, to clear this guy out of Kickassia. And even Nostalgia Critic wants them to initially help conquer Molossia, because if there's one thing that Dr. Insano does well, it's kind of wanton, senseless destruction, and so that's exactly what they needed. And so I thought, actually, in terms of like involving the character, it's probably the most earned involvement of the character, because most of the time when I throw him in there, it's just like for a random joke, and so people are like, that's such a random joke, why would you throw this guy in there? I think this is actually the most well developed and foreshadowed, and it's the most well developed involvement of the character I've seen yet. So I thought it was really masterfully written, especially with the alternative take on the guy, where he's kind of this Jekyll and Hyde personality that I'm extraordinarily afraid of. And so it's actually kind of become a running joke now, where like every time I involve Dr. Insano, I give an alternate potential origin story for him. So this is like yet another origin story that it's actually really hilarious now. There are several fans who have taken it upon themselves to develop a backstory or a continuity that makes sense with all the various incarnations of myself, with the clone and the Black Lantern, and the parallel dimensions or the Elseworlds version of myself, Dr. Insano, like the Party Mania version of Dr. Insano that emerges, who's one of the Slumper brothers, the Link Sano incarnation. And they're actually like, I keep getting emails of like essays, like 20-page essays of how this continuity makes sense. It's great. I love my fans. I don't know if I ever saw much point in trying to keep Dr. Insano's origin or continuity straight. To me, he was always kind of like the Joker. I remember, The Killing Joke? There's a few stories that actually purport themselves as origin stories of the Joker, but even in that, in the books specifically dedicated to giving the Joker an origin story, there's like 3 parallel versions, and I think the Joker's monologue is like, I always preferred my backstory to be multiple choice, or something like that. I just roll with it. You can't let this one drive you crazy, otherwise you'll end up putting the goggles on as well. Oh, and by the way, getting into a fist fight wearing those goggles, not easy. Anyway, we stayed in a hotel casino, which is actually probably the nicest hotel I've ever been to. It is probably by design. When you're running a casino. Okay, so this is the big fight. I think the scene I think a lot of people were waiting for was we kind of kept foreshadowing the whole Dr. Insano resurrection from part 1, really, and so this is the big fight. I actually was not entirely happy with my costume, but I have no one to blame for that but myself. I was actually not wanting to wear the green scrubs, the green scrub top and bottom, because those are actually kind of a cheap costume pair of scrubs, and I had bought so many better pairs of scrubs. I actually wanted to wear either the maroon ones or the black ones that I have. Only problem was when I bought those scrubs, I didn't buy scrub bottoms, and so I would be wearing blue jeans, and I really didn't want Dr. Insano to wear blue jeans. I wanted him to wear scrub pants, but I just don't think that color works as well as the other colors would have, and probably the maroon was probably not a good choice either, because in hindsight, Nostalgia Critic is wearing maroon, so maybe the black would have worked better, but this color works okay. Donkey punched!
Sorry, critic, but
the reason I didn't have the other colored pants is I ordered them, but I ordered a size that was too big. They were like MC Hammer pants on me, so I had to return them. I couldn't wear them for this shoot. They would have looked ridiculous.
Sucking bozo. You want a piece of me?
After the epic battle, I think we were both trying to be really careful not to hurt each other. So if it seems like the punches are coming nowhere close, it's because they weren't. We actually did a lot of reshoots just because the punches didn't look good, and that was probably my fault. I was being very conscious. I did not want to hurt the guy. I didn't want to hurt myself either. The last thing you want is to get knocked out in the middle of the shoot, so when you're not dealing with trained stuntmen, and we definitely were not that, we were kind of doing these really exaggerated cross-cartoon punches and stuff like that. I did love this scene where I do the hockey tactic to pulling the jersey over his head and punching him. I think the other thing I was really trying to avoid doing was breaking his glasses, because I don't know if he ever had a backup pair of glasses, but I did not want to accidentally right hook him in the face and shatter his glasses, because that would have fucked everything up. And actually, I don't know how it happened. I put my costume in the back of one of the trucks and brought it back home. I usually put the X-ray goggles. Nipple twist! This was suggested on the spot where I used the stethoscope and I break out of like a nerve hold. I had to do that scream for like 5 minutes straight. I'd put the costume in the back of the truck, and I think the glasses fell out of the pocket. I left them in the van. I asked Doug and Rob to go get it for me whenever it was convenient, and they were really ashamed when they brought the costume, because apparently the glasses fell out of the pocket, and at some point they broke. They broke right in half. And so he's like, "Do you have any spare goggles? Like, we're so sorry." Like, I think they had thought they had killed Dr. Insano at that moment. Like, I had never had any other pairs of goggles. I have 3 other pairs of goggles, but I only have 1 other pair of black ones. But that pair of goggles you see there is now broken. And actually, I kept them because I actually may have use for a pair of broken goggles. I was worried this scene would come off as being especially sadistic, because I basically just go down there and I just punch the shit out of that guy. Like, it's really brutal. I brutalized this guy. There was some disappointment. I think a few people called this scene anticlimactic because I didn't necessarily use a whole lot of science to beat this guy. I just kind of fist fight him. I think you have to realize that we couldn't really bring... I would love to have rolled up in there in a tank or something like that, or have brought this gigantic death ray. At the same time, the death ray I brought was the Sega Menacer, and we used that in the shot. I don't know what I would have done otherwise if I had designed some kind of super weapon. Maybe, I don't know. I think it works really well here. I think Dr. Insano throwing down was a good thing to see, especially since this is the first time he's ever really won a fight. His number of victories can be counted on no hands. So he does eventually lose this one, but still, it was kind of good having a win here. You can also see the problem with shooting on such a limited schedule. If you look at the sun, it looks like, if you look at the window, it looks like the sun is going nova outside. That's called backlighting. And that's basically in every shot. When you have such little control over the lighting, it's very hard to balance the exposure and white balance, because you're dealing with natural light, and that's always a bitch to do when you're shooting a movie, because natural light changes all the time. It'll blow out your lens when you're looking at it, when you're looking at it through a camera. So you never want to have backlighting. What the problem was, there's backlighting in almost every room of the shot, so it's really tough to shoot that well. And I think Rob did an excellent job of keeping the white balance consistent, trying to keep the blowout from the backlighting easily. Love this shot where he looks like he's floating around. You can see him moving his feet. It levitates the bullet trains from Tokyo to Osaka. I don't know when it became well known that Dr. Insano has force lightning powers, but, you know, hell with it. It's science.
But it is science.
It's probably my best line. Thank you, Doug. That was a great line. This scene actually reminds me a lot of the scene from Big Trouble in Little China, my favorite movie, where Egg Shen and Lo Pan are kind of fighting with their finger beams. At least it reminds me of that. It's probably not what he was going for, but see that backlighting? That is death on a film shoot a lot of times when you've got that degree of backlighting. So trying to balance the exposure was probably hellish on Rob. Just trying to get that down. I also remember we had a lot of problems with sound. Shooting outside, the wind was so bad that when you're shooting on the microphone's camera, you're gonna get wind just blowing out that microphone. So I think he was using a shotgun microphone most of the time, which again is not ideal, especially when you're shooting indoors. I think they were really worried about that quite a bit. I think one of us lended him a windsock. I had a windsock. I don't know if it fit. I can't remember whose windsock we used, but it really helped a lot. But even indoors, when you're using a shotgun microphone, you're getting a lot of sound bouncing off the walls. It sounds a little tinny sometimes. You might be getting a little feedback. It's not great.
Wait, it's not its fault!
So ideally, in a film shoot, you've got an entire staff of people who are doing things to try to block out the light from the windows, putting a film over the windows to knock down the sunlight outside by a bunch of f-stops. You've got your own light kit. You've got somebody booming every shot with a sound, for sound.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
And ideally, I actually had the equipment to do that. I had lights, I had a boom mic, I had a decent camera and stuff like that. I had a microphone ideal for booming, but at the same time, if I did that, I would have had to basically rent a U-Haul truck to haul it all out. And also every shot would have taken about probably 2 to 3 times as long as it would have been like a 12-day shoot. I mean, when you're dealing with that kind of crew, this was very guerrilla filmmaking. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
When you're shooting that quickly, you don't have time to set up lighting. You don't have time to set up sound. And I think it looks really amazing. It looks and sounds surprisingly amazing. I honestly, I was really worried about this one. I thought especially the sound wouldn't come out nearly as well, especially with all this. You're dealing with like 16 people in the green room out there, and even when they're trying to be quiet, you've got a lot of shuffling around, you've got a lot of breathing, you got a lot of people dropping stuff and things like that. It's very hard, and so Doug was always yelling. He was trying to keep everyone as quiet as possible because we could not afford to get people talking and bullshitting around on the microphone pickup.
It was an accident.
But if there was the biggest problem to this show, I think it's the overexposure of the lens in a lot of shots. Like if you look at that entire right side, that entire right side of the shot is dramatically overexposed. At the same time, I actually think it kind of works. I've seen it handled much worse in other movies where it just looks amateurish. I actually think in this respect, the really sharp contrast really plays into the whole war movie aspect of it. Now, maybe I'm just justifying it in hindsight, but I actually think it doesn't look as bad as I initially feared. It actually kind of works for me. And actually, I think when you're dealing with natural light, you're dealing with really inconsistent light a lot of times, and I don't think that effect comes across as bad either, where you're having the inconsistent light depending on the different times of day, which can really like if you're shooting at one movie, if you're shooting at one window at 8 in the morning, it's going to look much different when you're shooting at that same window at 3 p.m. You're not going to get nearly as much light. It's going to look a lot different. I don't think that problem carries across as much as I'd feared initially. There was one moment I suggested that was pretty rapidly shot down. I kind of wanted I suggested that Santa Christ would come in and cast a really kind of judgmental look at Jew Wario for some reason. just kind of like eyes narrow at Jew Wario. He's like, "You don't believe in Christmas, do you?" And I don't know. That was kind of pushing it, but no more so than the inspirational speech when Nostalgia Critic is like, "Are you Nazis or Nazis?" And so I was like, that's really black humor, but I kind of dig it. I should also mention, I promised to mention this before, I basically spread the plague among the entire cast. At least I may have. Before I left, I was dealing with a really bad sore throat. It was kind of a strange sore throat. It wasn't so much sore as it was just like bone dry, and no matter how much I had to drink, it just remained really dry, and it made my voice very hoarse, very froggy.
I believe in Santa Christ.
This is the first time I'd ever seen the cameos.
I believe in Santa.
So it's actually if you're not familiar with everyone who's involved with the various reviews, you may not remember who all these guys are, and it's actually worth digging into the archives to find out who a lot of them are. That Jewish guy and stuff like that. It's actually Cat.
I believe in Santa Christ. I believe in Santa.
So many of them only did 1 or 2 reviews, but they're actually worth watching.
I believe in Santa Christ.
Anyway, I had come with this really bad sore throat that turned into like a really hoarse voice, and it turned into a really kind of deep-throated, kind of nasty cough. And this is another thing I was really fearful about, was my voice was really crap the first 2 days, and it was a good thing I didn't actually have much to say the first 2 days. But I was doing a lot of crossovers the first 2 days. Like I did Pumpkinhead, and I did Linkara's thing, and I probably did. I can't remember all the crossovers. There was so many of them. But my voice was kind of crap. And I think over the course of the entire shoot, everyone kind of got what I got. I don't know how. I wasn't really breathing on anybody, but I remember a bunch of people started complaining of having like sore throats and dry throats, and they were wondering aloud how they got sick. And I was just like, oh shit. So I really hope I didn't inconvenience anybody too much if I did happen to spread the Spoony plague among the entire cast. I think once I got it, everyone else got it. It wasn't a really debilitating illness. It wasn't like I was dying. It was a really nagging sore throat. and you didn't want to be screaming because it would really irritate your throat. And so I went to the sundry shop and I bought like $30 of throat lozenges and lifesavers. Like I was chugging lifesavers like crazy, and it seems silly, but they were actually very helpful. Just sucking on a hard candy and kind of coating your throat with some kind of like sugar or something like that. It kept the throat moist. It kind of kept it from being sore, and that was really all I needed. I was just drinking a lot of water. I was having a lot of lifesavers, and that was pretty much my best advice. Because I was just handing out like throat lozenges like crazy to everybody. So like especially Jason, I think after day 2 or 3 was really complaining of a sore throat, and so I was giving him throat lozenges. This was another really big surprise. I had no idea that Linkara did such a good Starfleet patent. He started doing the Starfleet patent thing like right away. Like basically like his entire performance was patent, and he just kind of puts the Starfleet uniform on right away. And Doug was like, no, you got to do the patent thing when you reveal yourself as Starfleet patent. You know, like when you finally are put in charge, you're progressively getting more mad with bloodlust. You know, so you got to kind of build up to it where you're Linkara at first, and then when you finally have assumed this role of warlord, you got to become patent. So it was good having that kind of progression, which is why having a really good director is key to things like this. And I think that's the first time I've ever had the word Kamchatka on one of my videos. Risk is actually kind of a sticking point for me. I kind of have a knee-jerk hostile reaction to Risk, and it seems silly, but I play a lot of board games on Fridays with some of my friends. And I think the most common question I get from people who don't know anything about board games, whenever I'm playing any kind of game, is like, what are you playing? And I'll say things like, I'm playing Age of Steam. And their first question invariably is like, oh, is that like Risk? And I want to hit you. Like, when you say that shit, it's almost you're in my waist for levels of annoyance when you say that. Like, so, like, even when I'm playing, I'll be playing,
Anyway, whose turn?
Puerto Rico, which it doesn't have a map, it doesn't have little war figures at all, and I'm like, what are you playing, Puerto Rico? Oh, is that like Risk? I'm like, you motherfucker, are you fucking idiot? Like, I guess it's forgivable when I actually am playing a war game. Like, I'm actually setting up a War of the Ring game, and so that's always the first. I get questions on Twitter like, oh, is War of the Ring like Risk? No, Risk is a lousy game. It's so bad, and I could actually explain to you why, but it really
confusing enough.
It has to do with the sets of cards. Like it gets to the point where you're turning in sets of cards and you're getting like 30, 35 armies, and like all of a sudden you're like, what are you doing? I find like in one turn one person takes over 3/4 of the map, then his turn's over. The next turn one guy turns in a set of cards, gets all his armies back, and then he takes over 3/4 of the map. Then the next turn another guy does the same thing, he gets 3/4 of the map, and so it just takes really forever. It has nothing to do with any kind of strategy or warfare. It's just rolling dice. It's rolling a load of bucket of dice. Anyway, eventually I kind of got tired of hanging out in the casino, actually, because I didn't like losing money. I'd much rather lose my money at arcade games. And actually, the arcades sucked. Most of the games were broken, which I found really unusual, especially with the kind of the money flow that casino makes. It seems like that arcade was not a priority to them, and. What really sucked was most of the games that actually did work were the rhythm games, and I had never seen a lot of them. But Dance Dance Revolution was a game that I was no good at. I'm not physically capable of doing that dancing shit. I think my heart would explode if I tried. There was a few games. I think it was like, what was it? Not Beat Mania. The one where you swipe your hands over and under the little light sensors. I forget, Beat Maniacs or something like that. Dance Maniacs, I think. I really liked that game. There was also Pop Mania, which I liked the idea of Pop Mania, or whatever it's called. It's one where there's like an array of like 7 buttons, and you have to push the 7 buttons in turn. And I would have liked that one a lot better if I had recognized any of the songs. And it's not their fault. It's a Japanese import. So most of the songs in that one are Japanese. I think the only one I really recognized was I think there was a Dragon Ball theme, and the theme from Cowboy Bebop were like so I played those. I was like, those are the only ones I know, so I know what the rhythm is like at least. Same thing with the Dance Maniacs one. A lot of those songs were basically Japanese, although that one was a lot easier to handle. But if you don't know by now, and I think actually Angry Joe might be doing a vlog about this soon. I don't know how he got away with taping. Actually, I was really paranoid about taping in the hotel and casino. Definitely not in the casino floor, but even in the arcade, I thought I was a little paranoid about that. But apparently Joe taped us doing that stuff, and it was surprising to me. Mars Girl is amazing at Dance Dance Revolution and all those rhythm games. She's an expert at those, and I don't know if you'd think it looking at her or something like that, but she's awesome. And so I was getting tired just watching her, especially after we were doing all that charging and running around the backyards of Molossia. After that, my legs were shot. I was not dancing anywhere. I was barely taking stairs. I could barely make it to my room. And Kaylin is doing all this stuff where she's dancing. Whatever that one whatever the hard, she did the hardest song on Dance Dance Revolution. It was like Paranoia or like 300 or something like that. Whatever that song was. And I was like, are you crazy? And I mean, it almost finished her off. But I was like, just the fact that she was considering it and she made it through without failing, it was ridiculous. I was like, are you like a machine, lady? But the arcade kind of became our default place to go. God help me, I love it. We kind of hung out in the arcade just because it was kind of the place we weren't feeling pressured. Like we kind of felt, you always feel kind of pressured in a casino, like you kind of have to gamble to chase you out. But the arcade, we just kind of hung out and we talked. We basically played the Dance Maniacs game. I think Doug was even pretty. If I was tired, I can't imagine how tired Doug was by the end of this one, especially since he was getting beat up through pretty much the entire shoot, getting into fights and stuff like that. I remember I was really thirsty because I had my sore throat, and I was like, where can I get some water? And so they're like, oh, let's go to the bar and they'll give you water. I was like, so I went down there and they card you for water, and even the bartender looked kind of ashamed by it. We were like, I said, why? Like, he's like, it's state law, like we have to card for everything. And I'm like, okay, can I have my water now?
Just shut up.
Oh, Phaelus.
Two film break.
Sorry, critic, but you shot one Santa Christ too many.
Coming up is probably where the most cuts from the script actually got made. This was probably shot last on Molossia. There comes a scene where they beat up Critic and they kind of take his hat of power, and everyone starts fighting over the hat. And so there's
Wrong crowd, critic.
How dare you return from your...
they all start fighting over the hat.
That was the old.
And I think in the original script, even 5 or 6 people start fighting over the hat. There's even a scene where I take the hat, and I'm like, guys, we shouldn't fight. I kind of play the ask that guy role where I'm like, guys, haven't we shed enough blood? Like, this is crazy. Like, why are we fighting over this stupid hat? It's just, it's silly. And so everyone kind of nods in agreement and goes, yeah, you're right. What are we doing? And I go, I can't believe you guys bought that. I'm Dr. Insano! And I run off giggling and I get beat up.
Running this country, critic. Well, now it's our turn.
So that was probably the thing that got cut out most. I think only 3 people passed the hat around. Lindsay, Critic, Lindsay, Snob, and Linkara do that. But I think it was 6 people do that originally in the script, and it probably would have added 5 minutes of screen time. But I think it moves a lot better in this case because frankly, I think my role in this movie was pretty much done. I don't think I needed to go back to the Insano thing again and seize power for another 10 seconds. Although it would have been a neat little callback to the whole thing where I'm like, what part of Dr. Insano do you not understand? It's like you'd think after years you'd have caught on by now that I'm a lying bastard.
Oh, nothing. Just wanted to make my...
For those of you who are wondering, Brad the Cinema Snob actually does dress like that pretty much all the time. That's kind of his armor. Oh, this is a very Daffy Duck moment. And if you don't know, this is actually, I think a lot of the inspiration for, I think Doug told me, was his inspiration for the Critic is kind of like a human version of Daffy Duck, especially with his screaming and his kind of, when he kind of goes into his incoherent, sputtering rages. Oh, those pink Converses are, I think, Juwario's. He actually wears the sports jacket and slacks pretty much all the time. I'm not making fun of the guy. I think it's actually kind of fun that he's found an outfit that he looks really comfortable in and he looks really kind of suave in. And at all times when you're watching him in this video, his pose in the sign print that we did, and his entire persona in this thing, I think his favorite Bond is George Lazenby, and so at all times when you're watching his performance, you got to think Lazenby, because he's actually he's very much channeling him in this shot with his whole pose, like he's posing like a Bond villain, or not, when he's posing like Bond, and when he spins around suiting up for the entire invasion, when he spins around, he's got the straws in his hand. He whips his glasses off and then he puts them back on. That's Lazenby right there. And so he was telling me that, and he's like, "That's kind of fly, man. I love that." I think the whole spitball idea was a little strange. I don't think it comes across as clearly as it ought to. Like, he has this big fistful of straws. You're like, what is he holding? What is that? You know, like, I would have preferred that. Probably a better weapon. Speaking of acting outside her comfort zone, Lindsay is not exactly the maniacal cackling type. I think we did like 5 takes of that where he's like, "You need to be like screaming, laughing, like mad villain," and she's like, "Ha ha 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 ha!" And we're like, "No, you gotta be fucking insane." And eventually she busted out this insane laugh where she's rocking her hands up and down, back and forth, and it was like hilarious. Okay, this is probably, I won't say the worst injury that occurred on the set, but definitely the bloodiest. During this entire scene, we did like 3 or 4 takes of the entire fighting over the hat, where they're literally like they're all grabbing the hat and pulling back and forth, trying to wrench the hat out of each other's grasp. All of a sudden, like, Brad finishes the take, which I thought was actually very admirable considering the amount of blood that was shed during this take. But Doug calls cut, and all of a sudden Brad runs over to the sink and starts running his hand under the sink. He actually sliced his finger open on the metal Nostalgia Critic symbol on the brim of the hat, that big bladed symbol, which was actually kind of like cut out of either like steel or aluminum with like tin snips or something like that. And it actually had very, very, very sharp edges. And Cinema Snob gashed his finger open, I think it was his index finger, on the point of one of the little tines of the symbol. And it was bleeding like a stuck pig. Like, it was like he nicked an artery or something. It was like spurting out, and there was like blood everywhere. His hand was covered in blood. And we're like, "My God, are you hurt bad?" He's like, No, it doesn't even hurt really. And we're like, "Are you serious? You're bleeding like crazy." And all told, when he washed it off, the cut was like a millimeter across on like the tip of his finger, but apparently he was in like the exact wrong position, and it was just spraying blood. I'd never seen anything like it. That guy is a bleeder. But we were all really impressed with the guy. Like, he finished the take, he was bleeding like crazy. He didn't break character. He got out there. He wasn't complaining. He was like, "I'm fine." Like, I was asking the whole time. I was like, "Is your finger okay, dude? You're bleeding like crazy." He's like, "Dude, seriously, it was like the smallest cut I've ever received in my life." And it was like, I didn't know you had like major arteries at the tip of your finger, but apparently he does. It was kind of amazing. And yeah, that was like it was so gory. And we were all really scared for Brad. I was like, "Are we going to send him to the hospital?" He's like, "I'm fine, dude, I'm fine." But yeah, it was just remarkable, that the level of blood that was coming out of his finger. I personally escaped any lasting injury, which was kind of surprising, considering I arrived at the shoot fairly sick. And this was by far the more dangerous of film shoots, considering I broke my foot at a charity drive. Doing basically nothing. I just took a wrong step and snap. So I think everyone was kind of concerned about my fragile bones, like I was Mr. Glass from Unbreakable. Like, you know, we cannot have Spoony running around doing this stuff. Like, I'm fine. And actually, what's funny is I still kind of have a nagging limp sometimes from when I was hurt, because I was laid up for so long with the broken foot and the surgery and things like that. You kind of fall into a habit of walking funny on one foot. So I still sometimes kind of catch myself favoring the left foot a little bit, and I keep reminding myself, like, my right foot is fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. So it's kind of funny how you fall into that habit. So I think sometimes people would see me limping and they're like, "Is your foot okay?" And I'm like, "Nah, it's fine." She's like, "Am I limping still?" It's kind of silly that way. I guess I'm just an idiot. Continuity gaff. You can see me wearing my initial invasion clothes with the Get to the Chopper shirt. I'm not sure if you consider that big a mistake, but I was wearing a blue shirt up to that point. Maybe I just changed. It is the next day after all. I might have gotten back in my battle gear just to look really despondent, especially since Jason's still wearing his mask, but we're all looking very despondent here and defeated because we have been brutally crushed. Okay, so we're wrapping up here, so I better get to my closing comments. Once again, I'm very proud of what we've done here. I am simply amazed that we shot what amount. I was probably like an 85 page script, a feature-length motion picture in 4 days. I think everyone was very professional. Everyone came together, got the job they had to do done. They did it with relatively few complaints. Everyone pulled together, acted professionally, even if we weren't classically trained actors. We got together. We turned in some very good performances, I thought. A lot of surprisingly good performances, I thought, especially from people who don't have a lot of screen acting. This is very much outside our comfort zone. It sounds silly, but when you fall into when you do this thing where you just kind of reviewing in front of a camera, it's not exactly the same thing as acting for the screen. So reading a script, turning in a dramatic or comedic performance, we all did an excellent job. And so I'd like to thank Doug and Rob once again for being tireless in their efforts to kind of wrangle us together, turning in great performances, and editing together all of this footage, which must have been like, 4 days worth of footage, and putting together a really professional-looking, funny movie. I would not have wanted to edit this stuff. There's so much footage, so many effects, and so many different takes that you had to choose from. So much footage to comb through. It was very difficult. I have no doubt it was as incredibly difficult as anything they've ever edited anything they've ever edited together. So with that raw amount of effort, with as many people as we had to get, as many shots and as many pages of the script we had to get this done in 4 days is miraculous. And it's testament to how well this whole thing was run, that we managed to get this done and done so well in such a short amount of time. So thank you everyone for getting together and putting this great show on. Thanks everyone for working so well with me, and I hope you had a good experience working with me. Thanks again.